of Coffeeshop Book Chats with the Book Doctor, and today my guest is Sarah Stars, all the way from the UK. Thanks so much for being here, Sarah.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I mean, selfishly, I just wanted to have you on because you're always recommending good books on Instagram, and I was like, I want the full list of what you're reading.
Oh, I feel like what I'm reading right now is like a little bit different than normal, being pregnant and trying to read parenting books and stuff. But there's still some of the more regular stuff in there as well, for sure.
Well, are you reading any parenting books you like? I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who would like those too.
Well, so I've started ordering a couple of more like parenting books. It's been a lot of like pregnancy and birth books so far. And some of them have been great. I'm really enjoying, it's called How to Grow a Baby and Push It Out by a midwife in the UK called Clemmy Hooper. And it is kind of tongue-in-cheek, and it's really beautifully illustrated. And it's kind of like not trying to replace the what to expect when you're expecting, but just more, like a little bit more lifestyle stuff, a little bit more down to earth. Whereas like I got what to expect when you're expecting as soon as I found out I was pregnant. But in this day and age, there's apps that will tell you that kind of stuff on a daily basis. And I stopped looking at it after a few months because it's just, it just felt a bit repetitive, and like a lot of it won't apply to your particular pregnancy. So I've been really enjoying that. A book by a woman called Tammy Lynn Kent, if you're into a bit more of the kind of woo energy sort of stuff, Mothering from Your Center is really, really good, and deals a lot with creativity as well. As that's she talks a lot in her books about the connection between the female body and energy and creativity. So I really enjoyed that, and got a few that I'm waiting to start. We'll see.
Yep. So what are you reading for the other side of yourself, I guess?
So I think I told you on Instagram, I just started reading The Muse, which I'm really excited about.
I loved it. Did you get to start it? Because I know you were going to.
A couple chapters, or like a few chapters, and her chapters are quite short. And it's already just such like an entrancing, intoxicating read, because she's so good at setting scenes and creating characters, and things can seem so everyday at first, and you know that they won't stay that way. So I'm reading that. I'm trying to think, what else have I got?
Did you read The Miniaturist?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I liked it too. And it was interesting because we ended up going to Amsterdam as part of the honeymoon in the fall. And so I really loved being in Amsterdam at night, having read that book, because I could kind of tap into that sort of feeling of the city. Obviously, it looks completely contemporary during the day, but the things like the hooks, of course you can't see my hand, like those hooks that they have at the top of the buildings to hoist all of the supplies and stuff up into the houses. I was noticing a lot of that kind of mercantile city because of that. And I love how she goes for the history.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't what I expected as a book. I don't know what I expected from it, but it was just so, I mean, I don't know if you could have expected that story. It was so interesting and kind of, off the wall a little bit, but not in a really zany, mystical kind of way.
No, it was both of them. I think she's good at kind of really diving into a period in history and doing something really interesting with it. I love her. She's like 35, isn't she? I looked at her cover and I was just like, oh man, I gotta get it together.
I know, we're trying to meet her at a literary event, and I think she's like feeling the same. And I don't write fiction, but still, anyone who's got that kind of mastery at that age is like blows my mind. So much respect.
Like, how are you doing this? I'm dying to have her on and be like, just tell us how you did it. How did this happen?
What's your journey been like with that, for sure? So I'm reading that as like my fiction right now, and I've got, I'm trying to think of a button. While we're reading to the baby at night, we're reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I got the illustrated one for Christmas. Oh,
are you loving that? I keep wondering.
I got the first one for Christmas. My husband got it for me last year. I hadn't even realized they were doing it with it. I was like, well, just P.S. This has to be like a Christmas tradition now until they stop making them.
I know. We know how many there are, so.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder, because like, they're quite large.
They're big.
And the books get so long. I don't know whether they're going to or how that's going to work because they're
Maybe they could split it up like the movies. Part one, part two kind of thing.
Yeah, they're beautiful though, and it does add such a nice element to the stories.
Well, it'll be fun when you read it to him later on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
is it him?
Nice.
Is it him?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. I thought,
yeah.
I'm like, did I just go the wrong way? I'm getting a nephew in the end of May, so I think I'm like,
oh, okay,
that's the incoming baby boy mentality.
Everyone I know is having a boy. It's so interesting.
I know, and then a few years ago, everybody was having a girl. Yeah. It's like it's cycles.
Something like that. Yeah.
So funny. Oh, that's great. I love that you read that. And you both read it before?
We have, yeah. I mean, I read them kind of as they came out. As a kid, I was pretty close to the age that they were in the books the whole time, which was fun. Yeah. But I haven't revisited them. I think my husband revisited them a few years ago, and now I've decided it's kind of hard once you read one of the, like I read the first one last year and I wanted to just dive through the whole series. And I thought I would reread the next one again next year. So I'm just having to leave one a year again is really hard, but it's fun.
That's true. And then it's a treat to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. I read over the weekend the Wangs versus the World.
Oh, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it came out in the fall, I think, and it was her first novel. And it's great. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. I think I was expecting it to be much less funny than it was, or much less kind of snarky, maybe. But it's about a guy who, I think he was originally born in China, or so, he talks a lot about how he should have lived his whole life in China, but his family got kicked to Taiwan during the war, and so then he ends up in the US and he builds this whole empire, which in the first 2 pages you learn has been just completely decimated by a bad financial decision. And so he pulls all of his children out of various colleges and boarding schools, and he just drives cross country, and he's like, we're all going to live under one roof, and we're going to be a proper Chinese family again, and they're all sort of bewildered by this. And then you jump in and out of different characters' perspectives. It's all third person, but you're kind of close third with, each of the characters in turn, like each of the kids and the stepmother and the dad, and at one point the car they're driving in, and it's really good.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, it's really good. And I found myself, it's called The Wangs versus the World, and her name is Jade Chang, I believe.
Cool. And was it quite funny all the way through, or is there a more serious tone to it as well?
It's like funny, but like it's got a lot of heart in it, and I particularly liked, because I studied art history in college, the oldest daughter is an artist, so she's talking a lot about the art world, both in a ridiculous way but also in a meaningful way, and it managed to bridge this gap between funny because it's true and really heartfelt at the same time.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It was great. I definitely recommend it. I was just like, I'll read it because somebody told me I should really read it, and I had it, and I was like, this is good. I'm away for the weekend, and I just ate it.
That's the nicest kind of weekend, isn't it?
It's so good when there's nothing interrupting you, and you're just like, I'm going to read this whole thing.
Yeah.
So do you have a wish list? Because how close are you to baby time?
11 weeks away.
Oh, man.
Give or take. Yeah. It's getting real.
It's definitely getting real.
Yeah, I've got quite a pile. I've got a couple other books that I'm kind of on the go, dipping in and out of, and then slowly adding to other books that I'd like to read. I've read a lot less during pregnancy than I normally have. Like, I'd often read 2 or 3 books a week. And then just went through a period, especially in the first trimester and most of the second trimester, I was just like brain dead. And yeah, there was a lot of Netflix and not a lot of reading, because I just, by the end of the day, could not, and sometimes even like partway through the workday, just like couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
The thoughts weren't there. The ability to make connections, a lot of napping. So I'm kind of liking being in a slightly more, and I don't know how long it will last, so I'm just taking advantage of it as I can, like this more energized with it state to keep reading before the sleep deprivation really sets in in a couple of months.
Although I do know a number of people who had babies and they ended up reading while nursing in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and like hopefully that happens, and if not, like if it doesn't feel like it works very well to read, then maybe audiobooks.
Yeah, audiobooks, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually who's an acupuncturist, she ended up in the middle of the night with her son, and I think she read a whole bunch of Jane Austen.
Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah, she was just like, it just felt nice. Like, it was like I knew the story and I just sat there and I read it in the middle of the night. It was great.
Yeah, well, I think the thought of like having a baby has made me think of lots of books that I read and reread with my mom when I was a kid. And then I start thinking, oh, like maybe he'll want to have like different types of books read to him, because I was obsessed with like Anne of Green Gables.
Oh my God, I just had a whole episode
Did you?
on this show with Sarah Van Parken about how much we love Ella Montgomery.
Yeah. So, thinking about revisiting those, the Chronicles of Narnia, the Swallows and Amazon books, some of which are like more gender neutral than Anne, but there's no reason a boy couldn't like those books potentially. Just thinking about how that would be kind of those, I guess, the similar, like, whereas I didn't read a lot of Jane Austen growing up, but those kind of books, yeah, where you know the story and it's kind of just like a hug to go back to them, and you don't need to do a lot of deep thinking either.
I love that. It's like, it is like a hug.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a hug, a book that's a hug.
Exactly. Yeah. It's nice to really challenge yourself sometimes, and sometimes you just need them to be like, yeah, comfort.
Exactly. Well, thanks so much for chatting about what you're reading and coming on. It's great to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun.